The camera has always had a way of capturing something that words alone never could. Sometimes it's the laughter between takes. Sometimes it's the silence that follows. But when it comes to Sally Struthers and Rob Reiner, what the camera captured was a relationship that millions of viewers thought they understood completely. Until now. For decades, fans watched them as the young, liberal couple Gloria and Mike Stivic on All in the Family, and they believed they were witnessing more than just acting. They saw chemistry. They saw connection. They saw something that looked an awful lot like love. But as the saying goes, television isn't reality, and the truth behind closed doors is often far more complicated than what appears on screen. After Rob Reiner's tragic death in December 2025, Sally Struthers finally opened up about what really happened between them, and what she revealed has left everyone stunned. This isn't just another Hollywood story. This is about two young actors thrown into the spotlight together, about the lines that blur between fiction and reality, about misunderstandings that follow you for decades, and about the truth that sometimes only emerges when it's too late to change the narrative. The year was 1971, and America was about to witness a television revolution. Norman Lear's All in the Family wasn't just another sitcom. It was a cultural earthquake that would reshape the landscape of American entertainment forever. The show dared to tackle subjects that had been considered taboo for television: racism, sexism, politics, war, religion, sexuality, and everything in between. At the center of this groundbreaking series was a working-class family living in Queens, New York, featuring the bigoted but somehow lovable Archie Bunker, his sweet and seemingly ditzy wife Edith, and their daughter Gloria, married to the liberal college student Mike Stivic. The casting process for this revolutionary show was anything but simple. Norman Lear had already secured Carol O'Connor and Jean Stapleton for the roles of Archie and Edith, but finding the right couple to play Gloria and Mike proved to be a monumental challenge. The network had already rejected 2 pilot versions of the show, and the pressure was mounting to get everything perfect for the third attempt. Sally Struthers was a young actress with limited television experience when she walked into that audition room. She had appeared in the film 5 Easy Pieces alongside Jack Nicholson, but television was a different beast entirely. She was nervous, uncertain, and completely unaware that she was about to land the role that would define her entire career. Rob Reiner, on the other hand, came from Hollywood royalty. His father, Carl Reiner, was already a legendary figure in comedy, having created The Dick Van Dyke Show and established himself as one of the most respected names in the business. Rob had grown up surrounded by comedy writers, performers, and show business insiders. He understood the industry in ways that Sally couldn't even imagine at that point in her career. But having a famous father came with its own set of pressures and expectations. What made their audition magical wasn't perfection, it was authenticity. When Sally and Rob read together for the first time, something clicked. Sally later revealed in interviews that she and Rob immediately began improvising during their audition, playing off each other's energy in a way that felt completely natural. Rob would ad-lib a line, and Sally would respond without missing a beat. They weren't just reading words off a page, they were creating characters who felt like real people. Norman Lear saw something special in that chemistry, something he knew he couldn't manufacture or force. He saw 2 young actors who could embody the generational conflict at the heart of his show. Mike and Gloria represented the younger generation questioning everything their parents had taught them, challenging traditional values, and fighting for social change. But they also had to be likable, relatable, and capable of both comedy and genuine emotional depth. The show premiered on January 12, 1971, and while the initial ratings were modest, something remarkable began to happen. Audiences started talking about All in the Family in ways they had never discussed television before. People gathered around water coolers to debate Archie's opinions. Families had dinner table arguments about the issues raised in each episode. The show became appointment television in an era before DVRs and streaming services. You watched it when it aired, or you missed out on the cultural conversation happening across America. As the show's popularity exploded, so did the public's fascination with Sally Struthers and Rob Reiner. They played one of television's most beloved young couples, and viewers desperately wanted to believe that their on-screen romance was real. Tabloid magazines began speculating about their relationship. Fan mail poured in with questions about whether they were dating in real life. Photographers tried to catch them together off-set. The line between Gloria and Mike and Sally and Rob began to blur in the public imagination. But there was a significant problem with this fantasy that fans had constructed. Rob Reiner was already married. On April 10, 1971, just months after All in the Family premiered, Rob married actress Penny Marshall in a small backyard ceremony. Penny Marshall, who would later become famous for her role as Laverne DeFazio in Laverne and Shirley, and as a groundbreaking director with films like Big and A League of Their Own, was Rob's first wife. She came into the marriage with a daughter, Tracy, from her previous marriage to Michael Henry. Rob legally adopted Tracy and raised her as his own daughter. This should have ended all speculation about a romantic relationship between Sally and Rob, but it didn't. Fans refused to accept the reality that stood directly in front of them. Sally Struthers married psychiatrist William C. Rader on December 18, 1977, in Los Angeles. She gave birth to their daughter, Samantha, and by all accounts, she was trying to build a life separate from her television character. But whenever she appeared in public with her actual husband, something bizarre would happen. Sally revealed in a 2024 interview with Celebrity Drop that fans would approach her and Dr. Rader and refuse to acknowledge him as her real husband. They would insist that she was married to Rob Reiner. They would ask where Mike was. Some even accused her of having an affair because she was out with a man who wasn't Rob Reiner. This wasn't just a case of fans momentarily confusing actors with their characters. This was a persistent, years-long inability or unwillingness to separate fiction from reality. The situation became so absurd that Sally's real-life husband felt uncomfortable attending public events with her. Dr. Rader, a respected psychiatrist who had no involvement in the entertainment industry, found himself constantly compared to a fictional character, constantly questioned about why he wasn't Rob Reiner, constantly treated as if his marriage to Sally was somehow illegitimate because it didn't match the television show. Sally described this experience as both frustrating and heartbreaking. She had found love, started a family, and built a life outside of All in the Family, but the public refused to let Gloria Stivic become just a role she played. Instead, Gloria became a cage that trapped Sally's entire public identity. The irony of this situation wasn't lost on anyone involved. While fans desperately wanted Sally and Rob to be romantically involved, the reality of their working relationship was far more complex and, in many ways, far more interesting than any romantic storyline could have been. In her April 2025 interview, just months before Rob's tragic death, Sally finally revealed the truth about their relationship, and it was nothing like what people had imagined for decades. Sally explained that she and Rob had an excellent working relationship built on mutual respect, professional chemistry, and shared comedic instincts. They could finish each other's sentences during table reads. They could improvise scenes that felt completely natural. They understood their characters so thoroughly that they could play off each other with minimal direction. From a professional standpoint, they were the perfect acting partnership. But Sally also revealed something that shocked fans. She and Rob were never close friends off camera. They weren't spending time together between shoots. They weren't calling each other to chat about their personal lives. They weren't developing the deep, lasting friendship that everyone assumed must have existed between two people with such incredible on-screen chemistry. Sally described Rob's behavior on set as professional but distant. She revealed that during their entire time working together on All in the Family, Rob never called her by her actual name. He referred to her simply as the girl. Not Sally, not even Gloria, just the girl. This detail, which Sally shared casually in interviews, speaks volumes about the nature of their relationship. It suggests a level of emotional distance that seems almost impossible given the intimacy of the scenes they performed together, given the years they spent working side by side, given the fact that they were portraying a married couple navigating love, conflict, growth, and change. Sally also addressed a particularly painful aspect of their working relationship: Penny Marshall's suspicions. According to Sally, Rob's first wife, Penny, believed that Sally was romantically interested in Rob. Sally explained that Penny interpreted her friendly, warm personality as flirtation, as evidence of romantic feelings that simply didn't exist. This created an uncomfortable dynamic that Sally had to navigate carefully. She was trying to maintain a professional working relationship with her co-star while simultaneously dealing with his wife's jealousy and suspicion. Sally insisted repeatedly in interviews that she never had any romantic interest in Rob Reiner. She saw him as a talented co-star, nothing more. But Penny Marshall's perception of the situation added another layer of complication to an already complex dynamic. When Sally and Rob left All in the Family in 1978 to pursue other opportunities, most people assumed they would maintain a friendship. They had worked together for 7 years. They had been part of one of the most successful shows in television history. They had created characters that would be remembered for generations. Surely, that shared experience would create a bond that would last a lifetime. But that's not what happened. Sally revealed that after they left the show, Rob would call her periodically for several years, checking in and maintaining some level of connection. But gradually, even those occasional phone calls stopped. They drifted apart completely, living separate lives in separate circles, connected only by reruns of a show they had made decades earlier. By the time Rob died in December 2025, Sally hadn't heard from him in years. They had no ongoing friendship, no regular communication, no connection beyond their shared history on All in the Family. This revelation shocked fans who had spent decades believing in a special bond between Sally Struthers and Rob Reiner. How could two people with such incredible chemistry, who had created one of television's most beloved couples, not remain close? How could they work together for 7 years and then simply drift apart as if those years meant nothing? The answer is both simple and profound. What we see on television isn't real. The chemistry between actors is a professional skill, not evidence of personal connection. Two people can create magic on screen while remaining virtual strangers off screen. The intimacy we witness between characters is constructed, rehearsed, and performed. It doesn't necessarily reflect the relationship between the actors portraying those characters. When news broke on December 14, 2025, that Rob Reiner and his second wife, Michele Reiner, had been found dead in their Los Angeles home, the entertainment world went into shock. The initial reports were confusing and horrifying. As details emerged, the story became even more tragic. They had been stabbed to death, allegedly by their own son, Nick Reiner. Sally Struthers, upon hearing the news, released a statement that was brief but powerful. "There are no words. This is beyond devastating, and my heart is with their family." For Sally, this news must have been particularly complex. She was mourning a man she had worked closely with for 7 years, a man with whom she had created television history, but also a man she hadn't spoken to in years. She was mourning the public figure everyone knew, while also processing her own complicated feelings about their actual relationship, or lack thereof. The tragedy of Rob Reiner's death brought renewed attention to Sally's earlier interviews about their relationship. Suddenly, her revelation that they weren't close friends took on new significance. People began re-examining their assumptions about Hollywood relationships, about what we think we know about celebrities based on their on-screen personas, about the difference between professional chemistry and personal connection. Sally became the last surviving core cast member of All in the Family. Carol O'Connor had died in 2001. Gene Stapleton had passed away in 2013. And now Rob Reiner was gone too. Sally alone carried the living memory of what it was like to be in that studio audience, to hear Norman Lear's direction, to perform those groundbreaking scripts, to be part of something that changed television forever. Sally Struthers, the journey of America's sweetheart. Sally Ann Struthers was born on July 28, 1947, in Portland, Oregon, into a world far removed from the glamour of Hollywood. Her father, Robert Alden Struthers, worked as a surgeon, while her mother, Margaret Caroline, managed the household. Sally's childhood was comfortable but not extraordinary. She attended Grant High School in Portland, where she first discovered her passion for performance. Unlike many actors who claim they always knew they wanted to be performers, Sally's path to acting was more circuitous, more uncertain. She was drawn to the stage, but she wasn't sure if it was a realistic career path or just a pleasant hobby. After high school, Sally made the bold decision to move to Los Angeles to pursue acting seriously. She enrolled at the Pasadena Playhouse College of Theater Arts, one of the most respected theater training programs in the country. This decision required courage and commitment. Sally was leaving behind everything familiar: her family, her hometown, her support system, to chase a dream in a city where thousands of young hopefuls arrived every year with the same ambitions. The Pasadena Playhouse gave Sally crucial training in classical acting techniques, voice work, movement, and character development. She learned the fundamentals of her craft in a rigorous, demanding environment that pushed students to their limits. But classroom training could only take her so far. She needed real-world experience, and Los Angeles in the late 1960s offered plenty of opportunities for young actors willing to work hard and accept small roles. Sally's early career consisted of the typical struggling actor experience: commercial auditions, small television guest appearances, and waiting tables to pay rent. She appeared in commercials for various products, learning how to hit marks, take direction, and deliver lines with the kind of polish that professional work required. These weren't glamorous jobs, but they were essential stepping stones in building a career. Her breakthrough in film came with a small but memorable role in Bob Raffleson's 5 Easy Pieces in 1970, starring Jack Nicholson. Sally played a young woman in a bowling alley scene that has since become iconic in American cinema. It was a brief appearance, but it showcased Sally's natural screen presence and her ability to create a fully realized character even in limited screen time. Jack Nicholson was already an established star, and sharing the screen with him gave Sally valuable experience and credibility. But it was television, not film, that would make Sally Struthers a household name. When she auditioned for All in the Family in 1970, she was competing against dozens of other young actresses, all hoping for their big break. Sally later recalled that she was incredibly nervous during her audition, convinced she wouldn't get the part. But when she began reading opposite Rob Reiner, something magical happened. They clicked immediately, improvising and playing off each other in ways that impressed everyone in the room. Norman Lear saw exactly what he needed: a young woman who could portray Gloria Stivic as both loving daughter and evolving independent woman, someone who could hold her own in dramatic scenes while also delivering perfect comic timing. When All in the Family premiered in January 1971, Sally had no idea her life was about to change completely. The show became a cultural phenomenon, and Sally suddenly found herself recognized everywhere she went. Gloria Stivic resonated with young women across America who saw themselves in her character. Women trying to balance respect for their parents with their own evolving values, women navigating marriage and identity, women finding their voices in a changing world. Sally's portrayal of Gloria earned her 2 Emmy Awards for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series in 1972 and 1979. These awards validated her performance and confirmed that critics recognized the depth and complexity she brought to what could have been a one-dimensional character. Gloria wasn't just the daughter or the wife. She was a fully realized person with her own dreams, frustrations, growth, and setbacks. But success came with significant costs that Sally didn't anticipate. In a 2025 interview, Sally revealed that starring in All in the Family was harder than people realized. Her privacy was completely invaded. Fans showed up at her home. They followed her to restaurants and stores. They approached her constantly in public, often unable to separate Sally from Gloria. The most bizarre and upsetting incidents involved Sally's real husband, Dr. William Rader. Sally married the psychiatrist on December 18, 1977, and they had a daughter named Samantha. But when Sally appeared in public with her actual husband, fans would refuse to accept that this was her real relationship. They insisted she was married to Rob Reiner. They demanded to know where Mike was. Some accused her of cheating on Rob with this mysterious other man. This confusion wasn't just an occasional misunderstanding. It was a persistent problem that made Sally's husband uncomfortable and created strain in their marriage. Sally and Dr. Rader's marriage lasted until 1983, ending in divorce. While Sally has never publicly detailed the specific reasons for their divorce, it's clear that the intense public scrutiny and the bizarre confusion about her real-life identity contributed to the relationship's difficulties. Being married to someone the public refuses to acknowledge must have been incredibly frustrating for Dr. Rader, and equally painful for Sally, who was trying to maintain both a public career and a private family life. After her divorce, Sally continued acting but also became known for something entirely different: humanitarian work. In the 1980s, Sally became the spokesperson for Christian Children's Fund, later renamed Child Fund, appearing in television commercials advocating on behalf of impoverished children in developing countries. These commercials became iconic and controversial. After her divorce, Sally continued acting but also became known for something entirely different: humanitarian work. In the 1980s, Sally became the spokesperson for Christian Children's Fund, later renamed Child Fund, appearing in television commercials advocating on behalf of impoverished children in developing countries. These commercials became iconic and controversial. In 1978, Rob and Sally Struthers both left All in the Family to pursue other opportunities. For Rob, this meant finally pursuing his dream of becoming a director. His directorial debut, This Is Spinal Tap, 1984, became an instant cult classic and essentially created the mockumentary genre. The film, a fake documentary about a terrible British rock band, featured improvised dialogue and became more popular over time, influencing countless films and television shows. But it was Rob's run of films in the late 1980s and 1990s that established him as one of Hollywood's most successful directors. Stand By Me, 1986, based on a Stephen King novella, became a beloved coming-of-age classic. The Princess Bride, 1987, created a fairy tale that appealed to both children and adults, combining adventure, romance, and comedy in ways that felt fresh and timeless. When Harry Met Sally, 1989, written by Nora Ephron, redefined the romantic comedy genre and featured one of the most famous scenes in film history, the deli orgasm scene featuring Rob's mother. Rob continued his success with Misery, 1990, a psychological thriller that earned Kathy Bates an Academy Award. A Few Good Men, 1992, a military courtroom drama featuring the iconic You Can't Handle the Truth speech by Jack Nicholson, and The American President, 1995, a romantic political drama starring Michael Douglas and Annette Bening. This incredible run of successful films across multiple genres, comedy, drama, thriller, romance, established Rob as one of the most versatile and reliable directors in Hollywood. He wasn't just making hits, he was making films that mattered, films that audiences remembered and returned to year after year. Rob's personal life was equally dramatic. He married actress Penny Marshall on April 10, 1971, just months after All in the Family premiered. Penny came into the marriage with a daughter, Tracy, from her previous marriage, and Rob legally adopted Tracy and raised her as his own. The marriage between Rob and Penny seemed perfect from the outside. Two talented performers building lives and careers together. But the relationship was complicated by jealousy, career pressures, and the challenges of maintaining a marriage under intense public scrutiny. Penny reportedly suspected that Rob's co-star Sally Struthers had romantic feelings for him, a suspicion that Sally has repeatedly denied. This jealousy created tension in both Rob's marriage and his working relationship with Sally, forcing him to navigate complicated dynamics both at home and on set. Rob and Penny's marriage lasted 10 years, ending in divorce in 1981. Both later spoke positively about each other in interviews, and despite their divorce, they maintained respect for what they had built together. Penny went on to become a groundbreaking director, and Tracy Reiner, the daughter Rob adopted, became an actress appearing in several of her stepfather's films. After his divorce, Rob remained single for 10 years, struggling to find love and questioning whether he would ever have a lasting relationship. This period of loneliness and searching would later influence one of his most famous films in unexpected ways. In 1987, while directing When Harry Met Sally, Rob met Michele Singer on set. She was working as a photographer, and their connection was immediate and powerful. Rob later described the experience of falling in love with Michele as transformative, as something that changed his entire worldview. The original ending of When Harry Met Sally was supposed to be bittersweet, with Harry and Sally remaining friends, but not ending up together. Rob, influenced by his own years of failed relationships and cynicism about love, believed that was the more realistic ending. But meeting Michele changed everything. Suddenly, Rob believed in happy endings again. He believed that two people could find each other and build a lasting relationship. He rewrote the ending of When Harry Met Sally to reflect this newfound optimism, giving Harry and Sally the romantic conclusion that audiences have loved for decades. Rob and Michele married on May 19, 1989, just 3 months after meeting. Their whirlwind romance seemed impulsive to outsiders, but both insisted they knew immediately that they had found their perfect partner. Michele wasn't just Rob's wife. She was a talented artist in her own right, a successful photographer, a producer, and an activist deeply committed to social causes. Together, they had 3 children, Jake, Nick, and Romy. They built a life centered on family, creativity, and shared values. Michele's influence on Rob extended far beyond their personal relationship. She challenged him intellectually, supported his creative vision, and grounded him during the pressures of Hollywood success. Friends and colleagues noted that Rob became more focused, more mature, and more at peace after marrying Michele. The couple remained married for 36 years, a remarkable achievement in Hollywood where marriages often crumble under the pressures of fame, career demands, and public scrutiny. They appeared together at events, supported each other's projects, and seemed genuinely devoted to their partnership. Rob continued directing throughout their marriage, though his later films never quite recaptured the critical and commercial success of his 1980s and 1990s work. Movies like The Story of U.S., Alex and Emma, Rumor Has It, and The Bucket List received mixed reviews, suggesting that Rob's golden period as a director had passed. But he remained active, respected, and financially successful, having built a career that spanned 5 decades. Rob also became increasingly politically active, particularly in Democratic Party politics and progressive causes. He was an outspoken advocate for same-sex marriage, children's rights, and Democratic candidates at all levels of government. His political activism sometimes overshadowed his creative work, and he became as well known for his Twitter presence and political commentary as for his films. Some critics felt Rob had become too focused on politics and not focused enough on his craft. Others admired his willingness to use his platform to advocate for causes he believed in. This tension between artistry and activism defined the later stage of Rob's career. Then came December 14, 2025, and the tragedy that shocked the entertainment world. Rob Reiner and Michele Reiner were found dead in their Brentwood, Los Angeles home, both victims of multiple stab wounds. Their daughter Romy discovered their bodies, experiencing trauma that no child should ever have to endure. The investigation quickly focused on their son, Nick Reiner, who was arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder. The details that emerged were horrifying and heartbreaking. Reports suggested Nick had been struggling with mental health issues and substance abuse. The family had been trying to get him help, but the support systems failed, and the situation escalated to unimaginable violence. Rob's death at age 78 ended a life that had been defined by creativity, success, complex relationships, and ultimately tragedy. He left behind a film legacy that included some of the most beloved movies in American cinema. He left behind children, including the son accused of killing him, who will have to live with this trauma forever. He left behind collaborators and friends who remembered him as talented, driven, complicated, and human. And he left behind Sally Struthers, his co-star from All in the Family, who admitted they were never truly close despite spending 7 years creating television history together. Jean Stapleton was born Jean Murray on January 19, 1923 in Manhattan, New York, into a family with show business connections. Her mother was an opera singer, and her father worked in advertising, giving young Jean early exposure to both the artistic and commercial sides of entertainment. From an early age, Jean showed interest in performance, but her path to stardom was long and filled with years of hard work in relative obscurity. Jean studied at Hunter College before pursuing acting training and beginning her theater career. She spent years performing on Broadway and in regional theater, building a reputation as a reliable, talented character actress who could handle both comedy and drama. Jean appeared in numerous Broadway productions throughout the 1950s and 1960s, including work in Damn Yankees and Bells Are Ringing. She also made occasional film and television appearances, but none of these roles made her a household name. By the time Norman Lear cast her as Edith Bunker in All in the Family, Jean was 47 years old, an age when many actresses find opportunities drying up in Hollywood's youth-obsessed culture. But Norman Lear saw exactly what he needed in Jean Stapleton. An actress who could play Edith not as stupid, but as someone who chose to see the best in people despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Edith Bunker could have been a one-dimensional character, the butt of jokes about ditzy housewives. But Jean's performance gave Edith dignity, depth, and surprising strength. Yes, Edith's voice was high-pitched and her manner sometimes scattered, but underneath that exterior was a woman who often proved wiser than her loudmouthed husband. Edith saw through people's facades, understood their pain, and responded with compassion rather than judgment. She endured Archie's constant dismissiveness and rudeness, but she also knew how to stand her ground when something truly important was at stake. Jean won 3 Emmy Awards for her portrayal of Edith Bunker, and she became one of the most beloved characters in television history. But Jean was always clear about one thing: she was not Edith Bunker. In her personal life, Jean was educated, politically engaged, and far more sophisticated than the character she played. She was active in feminist causes and social justice movements, using her platform to advocate for issues she cared about. This distance between actress and character was important to Jean, who worried about being typecast and limited by Edith's image. When Jean decided to leave All in the Family after the 1979 to 1980 season, it created significant challenges for the show's continuation. The producers created Archie Bunker's place and wrote Edith out by having her die off-screen from a stroke. The episode addressing Edith's death, where Archie goes through the stages of grief while processing his wife's absence, remains one of the most emotionally powerful episodes in sitcom history. Carol O'Connor's performance in that episode, raw and vulnerable, showed audiences just how important Jean's presence had been to the show's emotional core. After leaving All in the Family, Jean deliberately chose roles that were as different from Edith Bunker as possible. She appeared in dramatic films like You've Got Mail, performed in regional theater productions, and took on guest roles in various television shows. She wanted to prove her range as an actress and establish an identity separate from the character that had made her famous. Jean remained active in the theater community, often returning to the stage for roles that challenged her and allowed her to demonstrate her classical training. Jean was married to William Putch from 1957 until his death in 1983. They had 2 children together, and by all accounts, their marriage was stable and happy, providing Jean with a foundation that kept her grounded during the chaos of fame. After her husband's death, Jean continued working, but also devoted time to her children and grandchildren, prioritizing family in ways that Hollywood doesn't always accommodate. Jean died on May 31, 2013, at the age of 90 from natural causes. Her death was met with an outpouring of affection from fans, colleagues, and critics who recognized her contributions not just to All in the Family, but to the broader landscape of American entertainment. Carol O'Connor, who had died 12 years earlier, had said that Jean was a true American revolutionary, and that assessment proved accurate. Jean took a role that could have been demeaning and transformed it into something meaningful, creating a character who challenged stereotypes about women, wives, and intelligence.